Over the past few weeks, I've become very aware of an online personality who goes by the name Officer Tatum. Officer Tatum is a man named Brandon Tatum, who has built quite a following and reputation for being a conservative African-American, a right-wing African-American, and the way that he's conducted himself since the Nolan Wells case has exploded has gotten me interested.
He calls himself a psychotherapist. Now, I don't know how big his practice is or whatever, but you can tell he's a lying, sorry son of a gun. I want to tell you guys about Shinergy. If you're looking for an energy drink that's clean, 75 milligrams of caffeine, nootropics that help you with focus so you don't crash and have all that crazy stuff in your drinks. You don't need to do that. That's over time that's going to destroy you. But we didn't just create an energy drink because we care about your overall energy and health. So we created an energy drink and a night drink. One that helps you go to sleep, wake up with energy, and the other one gives you sustainable energy throughout the day. So if you're looking for a company that agrees with your values, American-based, American-made, American customer service, look no further. ShinergyLife.com has you covered. And then we have a money-back guarantee. You take the product that don't work for you, we'll get your money back. This guy says he's a psychotherapist. We went and looked him up. He's not a PhD psychotherapist. He's not an MD psychotherapist. He's a professional counselor that has a degree in counseling and therapy. And he calls himself a psychotherapist. Now, I don't know how big his practice is or whatever, but you could tell he's a lying, sorry son of a gun because the fool just made up stuff about me. Anybody doing counseling, therapy, or psychotherapy, claim to be a psychotherapist, in order for you to make an equivalent or reasonable diagnosis of somebody's character, you should at least actually research them properly. One, maybe getting to know them or sitting down and talking to them will give you a balanced perspective. But instead, what these milk dud, bald head, silly people do that just hate other black people with a different opinion is they make up stuff because they need to frame you as somebody that can't be trustworthy. This dude don't know me or don't even know what he's talking about. His Google search wasn't even right. And he shows a picture, and I think he had made an inference that somehow I'm seeking validation. This guy have no idea what this picture is. I don't know if this clip is something he said about this picture, but let me put this into context. That's me, as you can see. That's RFK and his wife. And then there's my friend Mark. I got invited to the White House event, East Wing, by the person who put the whole thing together. Personally called me and said, B. Tatum, pull up. I invited my friend Mark to come with me. RFK knows me. So I came up to him because my friend Mark wanted to meet him. And we all took a picture together. I was in there. My friend Mark is incredibly successful. I would argue, I'll tell you, he manages billions of dollars under management in this company. I'm betting my money with Mark. Mark is a great guy. I won't manage my money with nobody but Mark. So, boom, there you go. We're in the room with billionaires, celebrities, all kind of people. Nobody's thinking about race. Nobody's thinking, oh, you accepted in? I got a personal invite. Of course I'm accepted in. These other people, I don't know them, but I know I got a personal invite. Anyway, listen to this ridiculous guy. I wanted to call him another word, but I'm trying to be saved. Roll the clip.
Over the past few weeks, I've become very aware of an online personality who goes by the name Officer Tatum. Officer Tatum is a man named Brandon Tatum, who has built quite a following and reputation for being a conservative African-American, a right-wing African-American. And the way that he's conducted himself since the Nolan Wells case has exploded has gotten me interested. And what I wanted to understand was, how does someone who's an African-American have the ideas that he has, have the ideals that he has, and build a platform that he has? So I wanted to delve.
Let me tell you what he could do. He could reach out to me. If you want to get into my mind and know where I stand, you can reach out to me and have a conversation with me, and you'll get a better perspective instead of trying to Google me and come up with fake stories about me. Roll the clip. He had me at this point. Cool, that's fair. Roll it.
Into the psychology of how a personality like that develops, and where it might come from. So it's interesting because if you look at Brandon Tatum's history, you have to first understand his family. His family are full of very, very successful people and very successful athletes. One of his family members was an All-American at Ohio State University and became an NFL All-Pro. Another one of his family, I think his grandfather, was a high fire department personality.
I think he's talking about Jack Tatum. Is that who you referred to? One of the greatest safeties to ever live. Now, you don't know anything because you haven't talked to me. That is more of a rumor that went around that Jack Tatum is my great uncle. People have said it. They have put that on my name. I never met Jack. Me and my brother were All-American football players. We reach out to Jack because it's been rumored that we have a connection there. People just been running with it. And it's just been going viral, and people just been holding on to it since me and my brother played football. I don't know Jack. I don't know his family. We could be related. He died before we can actually connect and verify if he's in fact our family member. So it's just rumors, and people have been putting those two things together because we have the same last name, Tatum, and me and my brother were both U.S. Army All-Americans, which we were the top players in the nation coming out of high school, respectively. So you don't even know what you're talking about. Then he said my grandfather was a police profession. Put some respect on my daddy name. My grandfather was not a firefighter. I said police, I mean firefighter. Put some respect on my father's name. My father was a decorated firefighter. My father retired as a battalion chief in Fort Worth. But say the rest of it. My father was a chief in Waco, Texas. My father was a chief in Keller. Retired twice, 40 plus years of service. Negro, get your facts right. Put some respect on my daddy name. Okay. But you didn't do your research. Keep going.
Fort Worth, Texas, where he's from. He went to Dunbar High School, where he was a standout football player, absolutely stellar football player.
True.
And in that part of the world, in Texas, high school football is a really big deal. And
True.
Officer Brandon Tatum was extraordinarily successful, went on to college to play football, and had aspirations to play in the NFL. He went undrafted, which must have really caused him some struggle and caused him some difficulty. And then after going undrafted, he became a police officer in Arizona, where he also had gone to college. Now, this is all important stuff to understand because just like in any family, living up to the family legacy is always a pressure. And when you come from a family that is stacked with so much athletic success, you feel like I have to live up to the success that my family has set for me. And oftentimes when you fail to do that, that sense of failure is a real struggle and leads to a sense of belonging. I'm going to get to that in a second.
Time out. Now let's clarify this real quick. If Jack Tatum was in fact my great uncle, I didn't meet him and I never had a chance to talk to him. So there's no expectation for my family. Me and my brother in my immediate family were the first to go to college. My daddy graduated high school. My mama didn't even graduate high school. And of course, she made her way. My mama still did it. But you go on and you say, my brother was the first in our family, our immediate family, to go to college. And then I came along. My dad went back to get his master's degree. And then my little sister, of course, she balled out of control. She did everything we never did. And my little brother did too. But we were the first in our immediate family to go off to a major university. There were other people in my family, but that wasn't a norm. It's not like we had a family legacy of everybody going to college. Me and my brother were the first ones. And then, of course, my younger siblings, they went off to college and are very successful. But you don't know what you're talking about. There's no legacy to live up to. Nobody else in my family ever played in the NFL. Nobody in my family ever played in college football, except for my cousin, Mike. Mike was the only one. And none of us went to the league. So you're making up your therapeutic analysis. And to say that it was like living up to the expectation, no, my father was a decorated firefighter. So living up to the expectations is becoming a police officer was honorable within the culture of my family. Let him finish.
But leads to a sense of belonging. So now he's also experienced a struggle at becoming an officer and wasn't able to do that for long term. And he stopped becoming an officer, and then he starts a security company. Now, it's interesting.
Time out, bro. I didn't. Dang. Oh, boy, what? Boy, yo, AI lying to you. First of all, I was very successful as a police officer. I was very successful. People loved me. They wanted me to be on the SWAT team when I was, 2 years on the police department. But I had a sergeant that held me accountable and said, no, you need to build your reputation first before you think about, you need to become an officer and know how to do your job before you start jumping into being SWAT because everybody's hiring you because you played college football. And obviously I had the physicality. So I had a sergeant that cared about me and cared about my future as a police officer and said, no, you need to earn your right. I became the youngest, if y'all want to put race into it, black PIO in the history of our department. And I was the youngest PIO ever in the history of our department. And I did it earlier than anybody with 2 years on the police department. I only did that for about a year. I was very successful. I had many commendations. I had a great clean record. That's the only way I could have even got on SWAT because I had no blemishes on my record whatsoever. And I joined the SWAT team. And I was on the SWAT before I left the police department. If I hadn't left the police department, I was going to test for sergeant. I'd have become a sergeant. I wanted to be K9. I could have did K9. Like I never wanted to leave policing. I never wanted to leave. I loved being a cop. And they loved me at TPD. Now, let's finish it.
Point, he starts working for Charlie Kirk, who was a very prominent conservative, very prominent right-wing conservative personality that I'm sure everybody at this point has heard about, and sadly he was assassinated. And as Brandon Tatum is working for Charlie Kirk, he starts building his own platform. Now, here's where I think things become really important.
Not true.
When you have been dealing with failure over a long period of time and you have a significant sense of desire for a sense of belonging, the internet is a very interesting place because you can build content for certain communities and experience that sense of belonging. And being around Charlie Kirk, he's going to understand how to build content for the audience that is also right-wing conservative that Charlie Kirk was serving. Now, look, I want to be very clear here. There is nothing wrong with anybody being conservative, right-wing, have whatever views you want to have, and it doesn't really matter whether you're white, black, or Hispanic. It doesn't really matter. But what stands out to me about the content of Brandon Tatum is he spends a lot of time saying really disparaging, disrespectful things about historical black people, about people like Harriet Tubman. I saw him making very difficult, very, very disrespectful comments about Rosa Parks and the civil rights movement.
All right,
agreeing with Charlie.
All right, let's debunk a few of those things. And I think that's the crux of, what he said. And he goes on to repeat himself. But first and foremost, I didn't start my platform. This person has no idea. If he'd have talked to me, maybe he'd be able to analyze me. I was very successful in high school. Went to college, got my degree. I did not have a great football career. I hated every minute of my football career. Although I was an exceptional athlete and all that stuff, I was in the 2010 NFL draft. Even though I didn't start a single game in college. I played special teams, and some years I didn't play at all. But I was such a great athlete, I was still eligible for the draft. I had an agent that represented me. Oakland Raiders was going to draft me. They passed on me on draft day in my draft party in front of all my family. And that was a hit. That was a hit. However, at the time, I had a kid on the way, and I'm a responsible man, and I'm not going to spend my time and I had a mentor, and that was a very successful white man who did so many incredible things and helped change my life. But regardless of that, my mentor gave me a good perspective. So I said, look, I got to make money. I can't be chasing a dream that ain't happening. And I didn't love football enough at this point. I'd been burnt out with football that I didn't want to keep pursuing it. So I said, let me get a job. I fell in love with policing after a ride along. And I loved being a cop. So I go on to be a cop. I never wanted to leave. This political stuff got out of control. And I said, you know what, let me give it a try for 1 year. I did it for 1 year, and I never went back. And that's kind of what happened. And I already had a platform. That's how I left the police department. I had already been building my platform, my personality. I can say that Turning Point USA was a springboard in my success, learning how to speak. I went and spoke at 20-something universities, all of this stuff. I left Turning Point and began to excel in my own platform. So I didn't even do nothing with my platform while I was with Turning Point, to be honest. Then the guy said, you disparaged Harriet Tubman. Just because I have an opinion about it don't mean I'm disparaging anybody. You completely lied about Harriet Tubman. I mean, Rosa Parks is the one that I have criticisms of, and you completely lied about Harriet Tubman. There ain't no video out here in the world that I'm disparaging Harriet Tubman. That fool ain't seen nothing. What he meant was, he meant Rosa Parks and couldn't think of a name, so he said Harriet Tubman. I ain't say nothing disparaged about Harriet Tubman. Only thing that I've mentioned about Harriet Tubman is facts that most of y'all don't know. One is that she was married at the time that she started the Underground Railroad to a black man who was free. So that gives you a perception of what's going on at the time that you may not have known. That takes nothing away from Harriet Tubman. You did not know she had a job at the time, and she lived with her husband who was free, and some of her family members were free blacks. That puts the proper context where she didn't start the Underground, and her husband told her not to start the Underground Railroad, which now he goes down in history as a coward, okay? But she wasn't on a plantation picking cotton, getting slapped over the head when she started the Underground Railroad. She was a very sophisticated woman. She was very smart. She probably would have been free in the near future. She was married to a man who was free. Her family members were free. It could have been a very big possibility that her family could have bought her or purchased her freedom. She may have been able to purchase her own freedom. So I mentioned that to put it in context. I think she was one of the greatest people to ever live. Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was an activist. Rosa Parks, I believe, staged what happened on when the bus thing. I'm not saying that white people didn't participate in it. I'm not saying white people weren't wrong at making black people sit in the back of the bus. But what I'm saying is that somebody actually had the Rosa Parks experience. But they could not use this young lady because she had a baby at 16, and the movement couldn't push her out there because her reputation was tainted. So what do? They needed another opportunity to recreate this. And this is my opinion based on the evidence and research that I've done, is that there are other people besides me that believe that this was recreated. Why? Because there are those who believe that Harriet Tubman had access to transportation. Many believe she had a car. Now, let me just explain this real quick. She did have a car. I did some research online and tried to figure out, is there anything else that I'm missing here? Because there's a conflict here. She did have a car. There's pictures of her in front of a car. Her husband owned a car. But there's claims online, which I'm going to do deeper research to figure out, are these claims legitimized or not? Because the things that I've researched says that she had a car. They said that Harriet Tubman once had a car, but her and her husband was on hard times at this point. And at this point, she was riding on a bus because they had hard times. However, it alludes to the fact that her husband got a ride to work every day. And when she got picked up from prison or from jail, her husband picked her up in a car that they claim he borrowed from somebody. So you have a convoluted, in my opinion, leaves the door open for people to speculate, could this have been true or could this have been a lie that have been spread? Some say her car ownership was a rumor created. And I don't dispel that. I just need you to show me more evidence than the evidence I have. So this is the only reason why I said that. She was an activist. They had the cameras and everything was all, because if you want to do it, you make it into what you want it to be and then you elevate it. You go sit in when that's not traditionally what people are doing in that city, but you go sit in and make a big deal about it. And you pay people, you fly people in, they go do sit-ins and they do protests. They stage it. It's not saying that the people weren't actively against them or that what they did was wrong or right. It's that thinking that a person is going through a struggle every day of their lives and they're being mistreated every day, it needs to be put in the context where, no, that wasn't the case of the totality of the experience of this person. They were bringing awareness to a situation. But regardless of that, if you got better information, then send it to me. Put it on our tip line, and I'll consider it. But anyway,